History will consistently intrigue current ages. It snares the creative mind to find out about the legends and courageous women of past times, horrendous wars, misfortunes of incredible boats that sank, and startling enormous-scope catastrophes. A large number of recorded books have been expounded on scandalous occasions that changed the course of history, and obviously, even in those days, photos have been taken to archive certain minutes or individuals as expected. On this rundown are only probably the most intriguing photos taken all through the most recent 200 years, some of which might be lesser known than others. The principal photograph of the Sphinx of Giza. The Great Sphinx of Giza was fabricated over 4,500 years back, in a real sense a huge number of years before photography was imagined in 1826. From that point forward, crowds of photographs of the Great Sphinx and the Pyramids of Giza have been taken by individuals who came from all the edges of the world to see these superb landmarks for themselves. As a component of what is accepted to be the main arrangement of photos taken of the sculpture, Maxime Duchamp snapped a photograph of the Great Sphinx with the pyramids obvious out of sight in 1849. By then the chest territory of the Sphinx had, truth be told, as of late been revealed. Another photo taken in 1860 uncovered that further removal had revealed much a greater amount of the sculpture. Today, the whole Sphinx is obvious, including its tail that folds over the back and stretches to its correct back paw. Just the nose, accepted to have been a meter wide, is absent from the sculpture. The quality of a sepulchre. The dynamite Taj Mahal catacomb was dispatched by the Mughal ruler Shah Jahan in 1632 to hold the burial chamber of his significant other, Mumtaz Mahal. After Jahan passed on, his remaining parts also were buried in a burial place inside the catacomb. This story took a turn for the frightful when a legend began getting out and about that said Shah Jahan cut off the hands and gouged out the eyes of all the experts and craftsmen who dealt with the Taj Mahal to guarantee they couldn't reproduce its excellence anyplace else on the planet. The first ever photographs of the landmark were taken by Dr. John Murray somewhere in the range of 1858 and 1862. The primary photo of the Taj Mahal portrays a side perspective on the structure with the waterway Yamuna streaming before it, drifting on Yellowstone Lake. The Yellowstone National Park is home to Yellowstone Lake, the biggest waterway in the recreation center. Pre-notable occasions saw Native Americans populate the forested areas and valleys encompassing the lake, with the principal European explorer to discover the lake, John Colter, doing as such during the 19th century. A fishing span was included in 1902, yet shut for fishing in 1973 after the fast decay of ferocious trout. In 1871, the primary recorded boat cruised out on the waters of Yellowstone Lake. The Annie was cruised to Stevenson Island on 29 July 1871 and was a little canvas boat estimating 12 feet in length. The boat contained travelers James Stevenson and Henry W. Elliot. Van Gogh photograph contention. Vincent van Gogh is as well known for his delightful works of art as he is for removing his own ear. The Starry Night, the Yellow House and Cypresses are among his most famous craftsmanships. Van Gogh likewise made various self-pictures, yet just had 2 photos taken of himself all through his lifetime. One of the photos was introduced at a display in 1957, during which Belgian analyst Marc Edo Tralbo asserted that it portrayed a 13-year-old Van Gogh. In 2014, be that as it may, a Dutch TV program utilized imaging innovation to age-transform the Van Gogh photograph and contrasted it with the other photograph of the craftsman, taken when he was 19. It was discovered that the photographs didn't coordinate. The Van Gogh Museum took up the issue and presumed that the 19-year-old was without a doubt Van Gogh, yet couldn't decisively demonstrate that the photograph of the 13-year-old was to be sure the craftsman. Numerous specialists currently accept that rather than the photograph portraying a teenaged Van Gogh, it truth be told portrayed his sibling, Theo Van Gogh. Argyll's Doctorville dinosaur fossils have captivated the total populace for quite a while. Books have been expounded on these Goliath animals and films created that show them in the entirety of their previous brilliance. In 1898, an exhuming in a topographical development in Europe, Argyll's Doctorville revealed a few bones having a place with a stegosaur. Novice geologist, scientist and classicist, Emile Saval, took a few photographs of the uncovering cycle and it turned into the most established enduring photos of a dinosaur removal in Europe. Saval had discovered a strong square of Kimmeridgian limestone on the seashore. The square contained fossilized bones and, after he informed the Natural History Museum in Le Havre, it was affirmed that the bones had a place with a dinosaur. Saval passed on in 1902 and around then, the skeleton had not yet been recognized, just like that of a stegosaur, with it actually being depicted erroneously as an iguanodon in 1904. It was uniquely in 1911 that the Octeville bones were first effectively portrayed as having a place with a stegosaur. The grinning hippo, a charming child hippopotamus, was caught on an island in the White Nile and gave to England as a trade-off for deerhounds and greyhounds in 1850. Obeish, named after the island he was found on, showed up in London to the cheers of many energized observers. His new home, the Zoological Gardens, saw the quantity of guests twofold overnight. Obeish appeared as though he was grinning at whatever point he slept, and he was one of the main star creatures and the principal hippo to show up in Victorian Britain. Obeish got away from the zoo at one point, and legend has it that an animal specialist was roped in as trap to help draw the hippo back into his walled-in area. A subsequent hippo was shipped off the zoo in 1854, named Adhila. Obeish and Adhila delivered posterity 16 years after the fact. However, misfortune struck when their initial two calves kicked the bucket not long after birth. A third calf named Guy Fawkes was brought into the world in 1872 and endured. Table Mountain Cableway. Table Mountain in Cape Town, SA has filled guests with stunningness and wonder for a very long time. In 1790, Lady Anne Barnard turned into the primary Cape Townian lady to scale the highest point when it must be done by walking. In 1912, plans for a cableway up the mountain began to come to fruition. On 4 October 1929, the cableway was authoritatively opened. From that point forward, more than 20 million individuals have taken a streetcar to the top, including Arnold Schwarzenegger and Oprah Winfrey, just as Sir Edmund Hillary and George Low. The absolute first streetcar that made the course up the mountain resembled a wooden box with windows, and taking a gander at it today, it doesn't move a lot of trust in its capacity to move a gathering of individuals up the gigantic Table Mountain. Be that as it may, during its long history, the cableway has kept up a 100% well-being record without any mishaps happening since its commencement. Into the jaws of death. There are a large number of photos that have caught the repulsiveness and misfortune of war. A portion of these photographs portray the bleeding fallout of fights, while others show the mental impacts that the various wars have engraved on warriors and their families. Numerous photos have been made during move and reflect not just the horrible conditions the troopers needed to live in, yet the startling activities they had no real option except to attempt. On 6 June 1944, Robert F. Chief snapped a picture of American officers landing from ALCVP at Omaha Beach during World War II. The photograph was named "Taxicabs to Hell and Back, Into the Jaws of Death," and the first inscription read, "American intruders spring from the slope of a Coast Guard-monitored landing canal boat to swim those last dangerous yards to the seashore of Normandy." adversary fire will chop some of them down. Their taxi will pull itself off the sands and run back to Coast Guard monitored transport for additional travelers. This photo earned the standing of being one of the most celebrated photographs of D-Day. Just about 10,000 fighters were killed during D-Day. They were covered in the Normandy American Cemetery, which is situated on a precipice sitting above Omaha Beach. In excess of 1,500 warriors' bodies were rarely recuperated. Adjusting large and in charge. On the off chance that you have a dread of statues, you probably won't appreciate seeing this photo. Stunt devils Charlie Smith, Jewel Wadick and Jimmy Kerrigan played out a daring daily schedule on top of an edge on the 86th floor of the Empire State Building on the 21st of August 1934. Nicknamed the Three Jacksons, the youngsters flaunted a many-sided difficult exercise which finished in them looking like a human figure. Kangaroos in Egypt. This is genuinely a remarkable photograph. Not exclusively are the pyramids of Giza noticeable behind lines of warriors, one of the officers is slouched before a kangaroo. Everything being equal, kangaroos and different creatures were carried everywhere on the world during the First and Second World Wars by Australian soldiers who were pleased to serve Australia. This is the way the kangaroo in this photo made it right to Egypt. A few troopers even carried koalas and possums. Numerous Egyptians were startled at seeing the marsupials in their nation and dreadful terrified of them, until they were educated that kangaroos were innocuous except if incited.